Well, hello, secret change makers. Sandra Madafferi here, and I am with the amazing Jodie Seamons today and going to talk a little bit about what she does. I think I've known Jodie for a while now and have watched her become an incredible coach, and think that the new niche of hers that we're going to talk a little bit today is something that is very close to her heart, and also something that will be helping lots of young people, plus of course lots of business people, to be able to streamline more what they do for their kids. In actual fact, Jodie, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, I think that some of the tips and hints that you've got for our kids can also be used by business people as well, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely, because ideally it's really about self-management skills. So whether you're in your teens and you're studying and you're trying to plan and prioritize, or whether you're in the adult world of business, we all need to know the skills of self-management. So, you know, being able to manage your time and maintain focus on what you're doing, and self-assess yourself as you need to from time to time. We all need to make sure we have that ability to self-assess our tasks and our goals, and just have that understanding of how to prioritize when there's so many distractions in the world.
Absolutely. So now that you've told us a little bit about what you do, would you like to actually introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to what you're doing today?
Okay, so I have taken on the title, I suppose, of a executive function coach. And when that was sort of first put out there, everyone was like, oh, what is that? A lot of people mightn't understand that. It sounds very corporate. But it's used a lot within the schooling systems as a term. And it's really about coaching students and, as I mentioned before, helping them organise themselves, plan, time management, prioritise tasks, maintain focus, the self-assessing. And in this regard, predominantly working with year 9 to 12 students. So we're talking about studying effectively, studying for exams, and how to incorporate plans into their school life and feel like they're, you know, organised and staying on top. Having been through the process myself many years ago, watching my own kids go through that process, I understand the need for it. I believe that there's a lot of support for our students out there when it comes to their counselling and tutoring. But I think there's a loophole in there's no one out there helping them actually sort of be able to like support them in a way to organise themselves and to cope with everything that's around them. So my job isn't about tutoring them in a subject. It's about giving them the skills so that they can incorporate all their subjects together into a well-organised plan, so that they aren't going through that stress, that anxiety, feeling overwhelmed. You know, we often find our kids complaining, you know, the teachers are always on my back, you know, I'm handing in my assignments late, you know, I'm cramming at the last minute. And it's really about alleviating those stresses and being able to give them those self-management skills.
So what are some of the things that you would get these kids to do? What are some recommendations when it comes to some of the tools and tips and tricks about them being able to get more organised and be able to do what they need to do?
So if we think at the moment around if we think about exams, a lot of our students are embarking on that. A lot of our year 12 students here in Australia are embarking on that. So it's really about understanding that you get your exam timetable. And as soon as you get that exam timetable, there's a process of taking it back 6 weeks. So you get your date for your exam and then you take that back 6 weeks. And from that point, that 6-week point that you've gone back to in your diary, you then start to plan and manage your studying program for that subject from that point. So it's about incorporating, thinking about the fact that you already have some sort of study plan in place, that this is something that you're adding in because it's about the exams. So you're already adding it into an existing studying program. You know, you're making sure that all your core subjects are fulfilled, everything you need to do, all your assignments have done, and freeing up that time to make sure that you can allocate time for particular subjects. You can think about the fact that we're better at some subjects than we are at others. So often we might find ourselves needing to allocate more time to them than we would other subjects. Things like science, math, English, they're usually quite heavily weighted subjects, more than your humanitarian style subjects. So it's really about knowing what you're good at, and understanding, having a good understanding of your learning processes and how you study. When is your best time? I know that I used to actually get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and study. I count myself as a night owl, and not a morning person, but when it came to that, I found that was my clearest part of the day. And I would get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and study. So for me, although it sort of didn't really coexist with my normal life pattern, that was still when I had my clearest mind.
Yes.
So it's about really managing your own time and working that sort of stuff out with your program.
I love it. I love the reverse engineering, and also listening to your own internal body clock or mechanisms of being able to learn. And you're correct. You know what that's just brought up for me as you've said that is that we tend to think that everything should be done a certain way. And I think sometimes with our kids and students, we teach them to do things in a certain way, but it doesn't work for all of them because everyone is completely different. So I absolutely love that you said that, because it just allows these kids to do what they need to do. Because I'm probably sure there might be a few parents that will listen to this and freak out when they hear that you used to get up at 3 a.m. but I
Absolutely.
but I have to say I hear you, because I remember the last time I did really intensive training was now 6 years ago, when I was at trainers training for my NLP, and I would go home from the training, I would go to sleep, but I would wake up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and be ready to just really study what I needed to study, and I absorbed it a lot better then, and then I'd go back to sleep again.
Yeah, because I think you get to that point where you've filled your brain with so much information, and there's so much going on in the world, and there's a lot of distractions, and especially students with these days, it's not just distractions with friends and peers and pressure, it's extracurricular activities, it's, you know, every social media process that's out there. So I think it's really about allowing kids to just develop their own program that suits them as an individual, because there's no right or wrong way. It's just how they are best at doing it for themselves. Absolutely. And I suppose what I want parents to get a little bit from this is just work with them to tailor something that suits them. It's not about them coming home every day and doing homework between 4 and 5, because they might just be mentally exhausted. You know, give them, if they want to have a little snooze, give them that space to do that, and then they can get up later and, you know, do it then. It's a case of just allowing them to develop a process that suits them. Yeah.
And the other thing that you do is you help the parents, and you've just mentioned the parents, to actually understand how to support their kids. So if someone came to see you, just run us through how you would actually support and help the parents to understand what's going on.
First, I would interview the child and and the parent. So I would do them as together and as then individuals, because it's really about, my job is to ultimately help the child. That's what I'm ultimately there for. I need to know and understand where the child's strengths and weaknesses are, where the student's strengths and weaknesses are. They may be really good at planning, but not very good at executing. Yeah. So really understanding where they sit in their strengths and weaknesses, and being able to then go to the parents and ask the parents where they believe their child sits in their strengths and weaknesses, because a lot of the time there will be some sort of conflict there, as in the parents may not really understand that their child is actually really good at putting stuff in their diary. That's not the problem. It's more the execution of then going through the diary and going, okay, at this time I do this and at this time I do that. And so therefore I could help the parents understand that, and maybe they could then, in that situation, remind the child, have you looked at your diary today? Mm-hmm. That we could put in a plan where they could do it first thing in the morning before they, when they get out of bed, they're having breakfast, they could flick through their diary then and go, okay, this is what's got to happen today. And it's about helping the parents understand the students, their goals and what they want to achieve, and then helping the parents support their child in that process itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I love about what you're talking about, it's not just skills for the kids for school, it's going to be skills that they then transfer to uni, if they go to uni, or work life. And that's what I love, because these are really skills for life, not just skills for school.
Yeah, absolutely. We all need to know when our bills are due. We all need to know, plan ahead for a holiday. Even we need to, if we're doing something, we need to understand how to focus on that task and make sure we get it done and make sure we complete it. And, if there's deadlines, make sure we adhere to those deadlines. So it's really about, as I say, it's a self-management skill. So they're definitely skills that we can take into our adult life and, for success. And I think one of the biggest issues we're facing at the moment with our youth is they're being succumbed to so many stresses and everything, pressures that are going on. I've spoken to a few parents that have talked about how they're quite disheartened by the school system at the moment, because it's really putting pressure on the year 12 students to put in their uni preferences and all this other stuff, and it's putting added stress on an already stressful situation. And when I spoke to one parent about it just recently, I said, people often change jobs 3 or 4 times in their lifetime. I said, so it's about allowing them to understand. What I said to my kids is, pick something that you enjoy doing. And if you don't, doesn't mean that that's going to be something you spend the rest of your life doing. You have to alleviate that pressure and that stress that, the school systems, you have to do this, you have to do that. And I think it puts a lot of unnecessary pressure on our students. And there's a lot of kids we've lost to pressures of society and all that sort of thing. So it's about helping them manage, self-assess, and being able to manage and become more resilient, I suppose, in themselves personally, on a personal level, so that they can, make the right decisions for themselves.
Yeah, I still can't believe that, when I look back nowadays and think how young we were when we had to try and decide what we wanted to be. And it's like, you look at that now and you go, why would I have ever even wanted to do that anyway? And yet it is at that age, it is one of the most, stressful things that you have to go through, even at year 9 and 10, picking subjects. you know, because we start to sort of like, you don't go through, I mean, it's been a long time since I've been at school, right? But, you know, you no longer do all the subjects. You now have to pick. Are you going down this way or are you going down that way? And it's like, how are you supposed to know at that age? And I think things like that. Plus, one of the biggest things that I have to say has come from, I've learned from the school system, is the fact that some kids just don't fit into the school system as the way the school system thinks they should. And then, of course, these teachers, and I'm not saying anything wrong against teachers, these poor teachers have got all these kids they're trying to deal with. And then they've got these kids that need this extra attention. And how do you do that? And it just keeps putting more and more stress on these kids because they don't fit into the social norm and they're trying to pass exams. I remember school being really stressful for me. And I mean, I did really, really well at school. I did really, really well back then. We did our HSC and I did really well. But I had non-English speaking parents. And so I had to do that. I was lucky. I had a brother who was a lot older than me, so he helped me, but there was no one there to really help me. So someone like you would have been amazing to you know, but not just outside, but even inside the school system. If there's any principals listening to this, I think it would be great for someone like you to go in and actually be able to teach these kids on a wider scale rather than just on the one-on-one. The one-on-one is great too, of course. And I think it's fantastic. And I think all parents should bring their kids to see someone like you. I sort of think that I would have, especially for a couple of my kids, you would have been fantastic when they were growing up and going through this. But I think the school system needs to look at it as a whole as well, because kids are different.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's you know, it's about maintaining their mindset so that if they're you know, feeling so stressed out that they're not going to perform.
No.
So the school needs to put things in place that's alleviating that. And it's sort of, you know, it's quite an important subject that I think sort of gets left behind a little bit. It's not just about, you know, subjects and exams and making sure that they've got all the syllabus and, you know, and everything that goes with that. It's more to it. They're humans.
Yeah, 100%.
Humans are complex individuals.
Sure are. And I think, you know what I love about what you do too, Jodie, the fact that sometimes it's hard for kids to talk to their parents. Parents are busy. A lot of the parents that will probably listen to this on all the avenues that we're going to put this interview on now are usually pretty busy parents because they will be business owners, most of them. So it's really difficult for you to listen, for the kids to talk to you or for the kids to talk to their teachers, and you give them an out, a place to feel safe, to be listened to and heard. And that's what I love about what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been working on and off with some students through the NDIS program. I have one adult, but I have 3 other, and they're students, and watching the changes in them just in regards to understanding their own strengths and weaknesses, their confidence, their self-esteem. You know, I have one girl who used to walk in with her head down, buried, just sort of looking at the ground. And now, you know, her shoulders are back and she walks in with a big smile, and it touches you, it touches your heart to see the change and to see such young ones do so well and becoming, you know, just better at being themselves instead of, you know, hiding. You know, that is heartwarming to see those changes in those students.
Yeah, it makes all the work that you do worthwhile, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we have to remember that these kids are our future. And compared to the way we grew up, it is so complicated out there. Like I'm serious, I would never have wanted to grow up now as compared to when I grew up, because everything just seems so much more complicated.
Yeah, it's a different world, we don't see our kids riding bikes. We used to have a gang of kids on pushies, from dusk till dawn. You just don't see that anymore. And it's not because parents aren't exercising their kids. Most kids do play a sport of some description, but it's just that freedom. We seem to have lost that a little bit of freedom of, everything's just so much more complicated. Yeah. Everyone's so busy trying to protect each other. It's a very different world. Very different world
of technology. It's an era of technology, of social media, and it's a catch-22, because if you don't allow your kids to do this stuff, they get left behind. But then if you do allow them, there's other issues too. So I really believe that our children's mindset, as you said before, has got to be a priority, so that kids can become resilient, that they can cope with stresses that come their way, and so that we don't have, we don't want to talk about it, but I think everyone knows what we're talking about when we say other things happen. So, absolutely. I think I love what you do, and I think it's really needed, and I would definitely urge anyone who's got children around that year 9. I suppose if there was some kids that were even a little bit younger, you could probably work. I know your niche is, those older level kids, but you probably would be able to help with the younger ones as well. And definitely when my grandkids are at that age, we'll have to get them to come and see you and get them all nicely organized. So if people would like to have a chat with you, let us know, how can they contact you?
So you can find me on Facebook under Jodie Seamons. If you would like to join my group, I do have a group called Supporting Students and Empowering Parents. So you could come along and join that group, and you can contact me through that. I am also holding a webinar on this Wednesday at 7 p.m. in regards to some tips regarding studying, effective tips for studying. So we're going to do that at 7 p.m. on Wednesday night. So you can find the links and pop on to that.
Yep. Well,
and that is for parents and students.
Yep. We'll get you to put all these links. Like I said, this is going to various different social media outlets. This is the way I'm going to say it. So there'll be people watching, there'll be people listening. So we'll make sure that we will share the links to everything that you do, and also share the links to the webinar. And I'm sure you will be holding a few of those webinars so people can be in touch. So
yeah, absolutely. Just got exams are upon us, so it's really about helping students get through those without being overwhelmed and getting stressed about them. So
congratulations. And I couldn't think of a better person to do this. I think
thank you,
in the sense that you've been an amazing mum as well, and it's not like something you haven't gone through. You've gone through this. You have worked with quite a few kids, like you said, within DIS, and so it's something that you're very well versed in. And I think that anyone who needs your help, or even if they've got kids, that kids can always do with a little bit of extra help. And I think it's really worth investing in having the kids, get them set up for life, because they are business skills, not just skills for school.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, the young people are our future. So we all need to, as adults, be the village that helps them. So
absolutely, 100%. And we sometimes forget about that.
Mm.
So thank you for being with us tonight, Jodie, and helping all these change makers and business leaders that will be listening to this. And we look forward to seeing you again and you giving us more hints and tips in the future. We might have you back and get you to maybe even give these business owners some little hints and tips about how to get themselves organised as well.
absolutely.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandra.